Hello, everyone. This is Carter Wetzel with Into the Interchain, where we bring in projects from all over the cosmos, all over the interchain, to talk with you guys, the community, about what they're building and what they're all about. Today, we have a very, very special guest with David. Welcome to the show, David. How are we doing?
Thank you, Carter. I'm doing fantastic.
So, David, tell us, which project do you represent and what do they do?
Um, I'm here in the name of White Whale today, or Migaloo. And in case you haven't heard of this, so long story short, so it's a completely permissionless Cosmosm layer one, and one of the leading cross-chain builders in the whole Cosmos.
Very cool. What could you give us the history of White Whale and Migaloo? It's probably one of the older Cosmwasm kind of projects in many ways. So give us a little bit of your history.
Sure. So White Whale was founded a couple of years ago by Sebastian, who was at that time a lunatic. He was very early in the Luna ecosystem. He really believed in the vision of the decentralized money. And there was a DPEG event sometime, not the final DPEG, but earlier, one that Luna recovered from. And that was one of his moments where he decided he wants to build something to protect this vision of decentralized money. So he built what was then called White Whale, and it was an open arbitrage protocol to, ironically, protect the peg. I know this might, those words might get either laughs or shivers depending on which side of the fence you sit on.
Sometimes,
But
sometimes both simultaneously.
I think so too. I think so too. And with noble intentions, that was the birth of White Whale, an open arbitrage platform where people could deposit UST, earn anchor yield, and the funds were then used by arbitrage bots to stabilize the Luna UST peg. In the end, it didn't work out. I think the protocol had a peak TVL of 40-ish, 30-ish million, but that just wasn't enough to protect the multi-billion downfall within days. So White Whale blew up together with the rest of the ecosystem, and that was really the pivoting moment where everything lie in shambles. Obviously, many of the team members at that time and the OGs, they lost their personal invests and savings,
Yep.
and they were struck hard. But the White Whale team managed to come up with a plan with a novel vision and executed on it. So that's where we are here today with a completely permissionless layer one with multiple teams building on it, with the leading cross-chain DEX by many metrics. And not only just is the team building cross-chain applications, but it's building cross-chain applications together with other teams in some kind of a very loose joint venture. So it's building a fully flexed cross-chain product suite that offers DEX, flash loans, NFTs, liquid staking, games, lending and borrowing, and so on. Pretty much something that can be deployed on multiple chains. And one of the most prominent chains that we're live on is Osmosis, Injective, and Terra, among others. And furthermore, the White Whale team also operates a 8-figure validator business, securing many different chains, I think over a dozen chains, from Injective to Terra to Osmosis. And given the history of doing algorithmic trading, like arbitrage, it's also very actively engaged with our own open source arbitrage bots. So that's pretty much the sum of everything that White Whale and Migaloo is doing.
Well, that's a great little history lesson and rundown there. Walk us through the pivot, right? Because White Whale started off as this specifically focused arbitrage product that community members. It'd be the whale, right? Like that was kind of the tagline.
Yeah,
I at least remember that. Um,
correct.
and now it's become a much larger vision. It's become this kind of liquidity hub that's its own blockchain that has kind of first come first serve access to opportunities that other folks don't. So
Hmm.
what does it mean to be kind of this layer one blockchain and this liquidity arbitrage hub? What does that functionally look like?
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, you correctly pointed out there's a lot of different angles that you can look at what the ecosystem is building. Um, Permissionless layer one, validator business, algorithmic trading, cross-chain products and cross-chain applications. One which I didn't mention, which I think is quite significant, Migaloo is the first chain in the cosmos with restaking.
Hmm.
Not restaking on testnet, not restaking in your white paper or in your fantasy, live restaking in the cosmos. And it's been live for, a year now, 11 months. And in fact, Luna was the first asset ever to be cross-chain staked on Migaloo. So one of our partners issued a Luna liquid staking derivative, and we managed to stake that on Migaloo. And since then, we've really, gone pretty crazy. The community got pretty creative and crazy. So now you can list. So now we have LP tokens that are restaked to the chain.
Oh,
So basically, chain-owned liquidity. Chain pays for liquidity with inflation, and people can earn the inflation with their LP tokens and secure the chain. We have ecosystem tokens. Think of it like a subsidy program. Like if you build on Migaloo, you get chain inflation for your project. We have partnerships with like Luna, and we even have BTC restaking enabled. So you can actually go to the chain, stake your Bitcoin, and it's live on mainnet, and it's working. So that's just on a side note here.
we'll pause on the
Maybe
side
you want
note
to
really
comment on
quick.
this.
That's
Yeah.
is a remarkable accomplishment, and I'm assuming that's through the adoption of the Alliance module, correct?
Yes. Again, a little bit of history here. So the Alliance module, which on the one hand is a good name, on the other hand doesn't really get it the point across. What most people would understand this or would understand better is a restaking module.
Mm-hmm.
But what it actually is, it's a monetary policy module because the chain can now decide what to pay for. Could be LP tokens, could be ecosystem, could be, acquisition of assets, streamed acquisition of assets, could be really anything. So it's a monetary policy tool, but restaking would get the point across best, but Alliance is the name.
That's fascinating. I've heard Alliance. The Alliance module has been explained to me once or twice on Twitter Spaces, but I will say the simplicity of restaking as a term definitely makes it all click very quickly. But to your point, Alliance module is broader than just restaking in terms of like economic agreements and alliances cross chain. So I think it makes sense now, which is I'm excited. I learned something new. I solidified a picture in my head of what the Alliance module is. Um, so that's wonderful. So just absolutely novel progress in a way that maybe hasn't gotten enough attention. You guys have been so ahead of the curve that people didn't even realize it, and that's always I'm always love bumping into the builders like that because they're like the unsung heroes that are there like shaking their fist towards the cloud, being like, "Come on, guys, we're innovating over here, right?" And that's always the challenge is like getting the word out about the people that are actually innovating it and doing it quicker than others. That's part of the reason why we have shows like this is to uncover those stories. So that being said, where were we? I think we took a slight side tangent to talk
Yeah,
about the Alliance
you were
module.
just asking about how the pivot
Yes.
came along. So
Yes.
I can continue there if you like.
Yes, that would be lovely.
All right, the pivot. So complete terror blow up protocol. The chain was in shambles. The protocol had no purpose anymore because UST was no more. There was no more pack to protect, and pretty much the whole community was in pain. The builders and the partners were in pain. The VCs got bankrupt, and obviously the team members as well. They lost their hopes, their dreams, and their money. So what happened then is that more or less that there was still the vision that was still intact. We want to build a decentralized economy. We really believe, everybody has their own little, everybody has their own thing they believe in, but more or less, if you look across the board, many builders share a lot of the same ideals, and that hasn't changed. It hasn't changed at all. The chain blew up. It was an experiment. It failed. But the idea to build something like to push the whole decentralized economy, the autonomy of the people and the freedom of the people forward, that was still intact. So even though, all the pain and all the damage and chaos that was done, the team still decided to continue building. And the question was then, all right, what do we build? We have certain skill sets. We have one of the best, best engineers. Maybe you remember, after the Terra collapse, there was a huge, every CosmWasm chain in the Cosmos tried to get the Terra builders over because they knew, hey, there's lots of, very good teams up for grabs right now. We can just scoop them up. So we still had our great team. So we started to look outwards into the Cosmos and try to figure out, all right, what are the next problems in the DeFi and decentralized world that we can solve and that we want to solve. Obviously, there are many problems on a technical level, layer 2 scaling and so on, but we were in the DeFi area, so that's where we continue to focus on. So we noticed a couple of issues, and we thought, all right, if this multi-chain vision, or let's start here. So if we're really gonna pivot to a world that's verified with blockchains and crypto and decentralized technologies, we need to scale. And vertical scaling, the way Cosmos does, is a great way of doing this. So we thought, all right, what happens if we have 1 million chains here or 1,000 chains? What happens then? And we figured, all right, that can only work if the protocols that are built can somehow scale. Because let's imagine there is 100 different layer 1s. And all the layer 1s, they need to build their own DEX. They need to build their own lending market, their own liquid staking, their own NFT marketplacing. That's not going to work. You're just going to continue to reinvent the wheel every time. And the same goes for liquidity. Imagine there's 100 chains, 100 different DEXs, and then you want to swap.
Right.
That's not going to work. So we figured that with the horizontal scaling of blockchains, there's going to be scalability issues on the protocol level and on the liquidity level. And so we, 1.5 years ago, decided to build cross-chain applications. So an app that scales horizontally, and if there's more chains, the app will scale with the growing number of chains, which we did. We were the first cross-chain protocol in the Cosmos, and we continue to be leading in that space in many different metrics. And so we decided to build these cross-chain protocols, build cross-chain DEX, cross-chain flash loans. Then around I think it was around 15 months ago, Do Kwon, the former CEO of the infamous man, former CEO of Terra, reached out to us and said, hey, we got this cool thing. It's called Alliance Module. And you guys are OG team that we built together. Let's do this together. So, we built a chain and we integrated it, and we've been running with it very successfully ever since. And then we noticed, as we were building our chain, as we were building these different cross-chain applications, we noticed that building cross-chain is really the thing. We were a little bit ahead of the curve. It took around 9 months until people got their head around this.
Yep.
Like, what are they actually doing? Why are they doing this? And then you saw other teams start to pivot to cross-chain building as well. You saw DAO going cross-chain. You saw Astroport going cross-chain, and so on, because they figured out, hey, it works. And we figured building cross-chain is very hard. So we tried to find a way, and we did successfully, to collaborate with other projects to build cross-chain together. So this is where this very loose joint venture comes into play, where we have a group of teams, 5 teams by now, and we have very tightly integrated apps, and we're shipping them as a huge product suite to different chains. And this is where we're now, where we continue to scale horizontally cross-chain, but also come with new iterations of the products, new products, and just attract more TVL, more users, and so on.
For sure. How would you compare your guys's product to something like Astroport? So like Astroport's like we're gonna deploy the same Cosmos of contracts across a bunch of different chains. How does that differ from the Migaloo and White Whale approach to
Not so much.
unifying and kind of
Mm.
handling the user experience around all of that?
Not so much. Actually, Astroport released their, call it V2, call it, post-Terra vision, whatever you want to call it. They released it, I think, 2 months after we released our new white paper that detailed the cross-chain stuff. So we were a little bit earlier than them, but basically we were almost at the exact same time. And the model is very similar. Now there are a couple of very key differences. So the foundation of both protocols is this replicated DEX across different chains. Now Astroport is just a DEX. We have a DEX plus flash loans plus a layer 1.
Mm-hmm.
So there's it's a superset. And we're both working on something that we call interchain liquidity, so that you can connect these DEXs with each other. So it's not just a replicated DEX, but it's actually a interfluid DEX. And the models that we have between Astroport and White Whale, they differ in a couple of points based on how they allocate the liquidity, basically.
Very interesting. What how much usage has the flash loans product seen? I think that's actually one of the coolest White Whale products, because I don't really feel like flash loans exists anywhere else in Cosmos. Even now, maybe there's 1 or 2 other spots, but I feel like that's one of the rare products that you'd think we'd see more of at this stage. So how much usage are flash loans seeing?
Not so much. So first of all, flash loans are purely focused at developers.
Right.
If you're a normal user consumer of DeFi or NFTs, you're not gonna touch flash loans. You use flash loans mainly for 2 things: for liquidations in lending markets, and for lending market liquidations and for arbitrage. So if there's multiple DEXs, multiple pools, you can trade them, make a profit without having capital. So given the fractured nature of the Cosmos, and given the fact that flash loans only work on a single chain, so you can't do cross-chain flash loans, the usage has been limited by the opportunities. So for example, on Ethereum, you have countless DEXs, you have countless lending markets. So the more activity there is, the more interesting flash loans get. So on Cosmos, you typically have much smaller ecosystems in the chain, so there's much less to do. Now, the flash loans are shipped as a product group with every DEX that we have. And mostly, so the most most of the customers are actually, we've incubated them in a sense, because together with the flash loans and the DEX, we also ship a open source arbitrage bot that people can use. So think of it like, yeah, bootstrapping your own customers. And then they take the bot, which automatically hooks into our DEX and the flash loans, and then they can trade and try to make a profit.
So you kind of described where flash loans have the most utility. So would it stand to reason then that Osmosis probably has the most flash loan activity because there is things like Mars Protocol tied to a bunch of dexes, or is that the wrong assumption? I'm like really curious where that activity is happening.
Yes and no. So your line of thought is correct. So Osmosis has the highest amount of activity, and it's a DEX. It has thousands of pools. So there would be a lot of inefficiency that an arbitrage trader could take care of. And it's true, there's a lot of arbitrage. But Osmosis, given that it's a very limited, an app chain in a very limited scope, they decided to implement something like Flash Mint, which is, so Flash Loan is a smart contract. So you put money in, and then you can call a function in the contract, consume the liquidity, but you have to pay it back, otherwise it fails. That's a Flash Loan.
Right.
Osmosis, given it's an app chain, they have Flash Mints, which is a blockchain module. So the tokens are actually minted. So they have a lot of Flash Mint activity, let's call it like that.
Interesting. I did not know that Migaloo existed. So like you're allowed to flash mint something like Osmo temporarily as long as within the multi-execute transaction it sees that you can like guarantee to pay it back, burn it.
Yeah.
Like
so
that.
I haven't looked too deep into this. This is just from my latest conversations with Sunny, I think a year ago or something. That's my knowledge there.
Very cool.
But there is a lot of arbitrage happening on Osmosis, and you could capture that with flash loans, for example. Yes.
Gotcha. So I know you said there's kind of 4 to 5 partners that are working pretty tightly with Migaloo on this kind of cross-chain vision and product prototyping. We'll say, who is it? Who are those partners, and what are you most excited about within those partnerships in terms of what's being?
Oh, that's a good question. They're all really fantastic teams. So let's go through them one by one. And I can also highlight a little bit how, I mentioned tightly integrated protocols and collaborate. How does it look like? So there's Backbone Labs. Backbone Labs is the leading and only, I think, is it only? Certainly the leading cross-chain NFT marketplace. So you have NFT marketplaces on different chains, and you can all access them from a very unified and simple UI. At the same time, they have a liquid staking protocol, B assets, and they tie DeFi aspect of liquid staking and NFTs together in a very unique way. They call it NFT-Fi, where the NFT collections are yield bearing. So the liquid staking protocol, where you can stake an asset and get a liquid derivative back, like any other liquid staking protocol, takes a fee. However, unlike other liquid staking providers, Backbone Labs distributes the fees back to the NFT collections. So you have stakeable and yield-bearing NFTs. So that's a very unique thing. And again, they do it cross-chain. So where does the DEX or where does Whitewhale come in here? So one, we gave them a grant to build cross-chain with us because they were struck hard by the Terra collapse. Yep. That's one. And two, they have integrated our DEX. Now, to understand what the problem here is, you need to understand how building cross-chain works. So let's say you have an NFT marketplace, and you decide that you want to reduce friction for your users in a sense that you want the users to be able to buy the NFTs in a lot of different assets. Like whatever flavor of coins there are on a chain, you want people to just be able to click the buttons and they buy the NFT.
Right.
That's an improvement to UX. And to do this, you need to integrate a DEX, right?
Yep.
Because that's what DEXs do. They swap tokens. So you can have your NFT marketplace and it settles in whatever currency you like. But for the user, he has a selection of assets and can just click the buttons, and in the back end, it's converted to whatever the marketplace needs. So Backbone Labs needs a DEX. Let's say they go to a chain and there's a DEX. So they integrate it. Smart contract work here. And business work, because they need to have, they need to keep a relation with the DEX, need to be aware if there's interface changes, if there's, any updates, upgrades, whatever happening with the DEX. Then they go to the second chain. There's a different DEX. So different interface integration, different relationship management. Now imagine they have a token, and then they want to have their token available on the chains that are deployed. So 2 DEXs, 2 chains, 2 DEXs, 2 interfaces, 2 relationships, 2 pools to manage. Now there's a third chain, and a fourth. You get the idea, right?
Yep.
Doesn't scale. It doesn't scale on the application level. So there is a DEX that's cross-chain, and it's called White Whale, which has the same interface on every chain. There's just one team you need to, talk with and keep a relationship on updates, interface changes, and so on. There's just one team where when you have questions, when there's a pool you want to open somewhere or whatever, just, all the stuff boiled down to a single thing. And that works. That allows them to scale faster and achieve their vision. So it's, yeah. So that's Backbone Labs. Let's continue.
Yeah, I thought that was good. That's good.
Eris Protocol. Eris Protocol is the second largest liquid staking provider in the cosmos by TVL.
Right? Yep.
Yeah. Second largest by TVL and largest by number of assets by far. I think they have 3, don't quote me on this, but I think 2 to 4 times the amount of assets that Stride has. So depending on the metrics, Eris is the #1 liquid staking provider in the cosmos. And by other metrics, #2. Contrary to Backbone Labs, they don't focus on NFTs. They're purely DeFi oriented. So they have various automations and exotic DeFi products that tie into their liquid staking ecosystem. And like Backbone Labs, they are a Terra OG protocol that also received a grant from us. And they too, they scale with us together on different chains. Then there is, you might have known them from Juno. There's Raccoon.
Yeah.
The games. No, actually not. So if the Raccoon guys would listen to this, they would, raise their fists in anger and say Rack FM is not Raccoon Supply. Raccoon Supply is this is the engineering team, and Rack FM is different set of people, their own entities, which just happen to be very close together.
Very cool. Well, I'll jokingly say I'll edit this part out. I'm obviously not, but
you edit out whatever you want. But yeah, so Rack FM, Rack Supply, same but not the same. So the Raccoon team, they are the leading cross-chain gaming developers, and they come from Juno. They suffered from you could call it just call it what it is, bad ecosystem support that many builders experienced on Juno. So they needed help.
Not unique to Juno either. Just the problem, so to speak, is quite common.
It is. But either way, they suffered from the drastic decline in token price on Juno. They suffered from they didn't get the help they need to build the products, to scale, to reach people, to monetize, and so on. So we were able to help them. We gave them a grant. We worked out a strategy for building cross-chain together, and so they have been become part of this very loose joint venture of building cross-chain. And for them, they're kind of in a unique position because they're not focused on DeFi, they're focused on games. So they can really pick and choose. White Whale is on a lot of different chains, so working together with a bit bigger protocol, bigger partner opens up a lot of doors for them.
Right.
So, for example, the Raccoon team is going to deploy on Osmosis. So few people know, but Osmosis is going to get gains very soon.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah. So they sneak their way into Osmosis, which is fantastic. And they're going to deploy on other chains as well. And how are we working together? So I just mentioned a couple of things of what White Whale provides for them. And in return, the Raccoon team uses the DEX pretty much for everything. Same idea as with Backbone Labs. You want to provide the user with a frictionless experience. So play in whatever asset you want. So, well, there's the DEX. Just plug and play. So the users can pick their poison and just play in whatever, which means more volume for White Whale, more fees for White Whale, more buybacks for White Whale. All happy. And then lastly, we have a lending market. It's called Ginkgo, which is not building cross-chain, but it's only deployed on Migaloo, but it ties into the whole ecosystem by listing all the Eris and Backbone Labs liquid staking tokens. So we deploy on a chain, they use our DEX, they deploy their liquid staking liquidity on our DEX, they have the NFT fees. It's a very complex system. Just to give you an idea here, so people can listen to this twice or 3 times as they want. There are so many different positive feedback loops here. So for example, White Whale deploys somewhere. Backbone Labs deploys there as well with liquid staking and NFTs. So the liquidity that Backbone Labs, with the liquid staking protocol gets on the DEX. So there's more fees, there's more buybacks in Whale, good for the whole ecosystem. Mm-hmm. At the same time, a strong Whale leads to stronger incentives for the Backbone Labs assets for the NFT marketplace. So that ties back into them. And Ginkgo is also increasing the demand for those assets. So by increasing the demand for the liquid staking tokens, you have an increased NFT activity. Because if the liquid staking protocol is doing well, there's a lot of incentives for the NFT projects with this NFT fee system. So it's a very, very convoluted and a little bit crazy economic system that we've built there, but it works together really nicely.
It's like a roving bundle that it's like a trade post that gets spun up, and it's not just like a trading post with one store. It's like a whole village gets dropped down on the new chain, and so as you guys kind of continue to grow the bundle, the offering becomes more and more attractive, and there's a lot of symbiosis within that, just within that trading outpost. And that's not even taking into account the relationship of that trading outpost to all the other places that have been deployed. So I think it's really unique. And there's also the network effects, having those different communities all loosely being big fans of each other, right? It's hard to quantify the value of a bunch of different builders with a bunch of different community members all kind of unifying over a broader brand. So super
yeah, I've never seen so much cross pollination of communities happening in the Cosmos. Mm-hmm. I noticed it the first time when Juno, so people I knew from Juno started, so Raccoon people from Juno started to go crazy on Terra NFTs from Backbone Labs. Yep. So that's where I noticed, hey, or Chihuahua people started to go to Terra and vice versa. So suddenly there was a lot of, it was not only liquidity and apps, but also community that started to work together. So that was really, really cool. And to highlight something with the network effect that you were mentioning. So this working together cross-chain we have a framework for this, and it's called the Ride program. It's very cheeky or cheesy, the name, Ride the Whale.
Yep.
So the idea is, if you have a cross-chain app, or if you have an app and you want to build cross-chain, then you can work together with our whole group. We already have all these different products. There's so many benefits from you get help with politics, getting into different chains like it. That are permissioned, for example. You get help with advisory on tokenomics, smart contracts, raising. There are so many different things. There's integrations, like we have a lending market in the group. So if you have a token that has some value, it will get listed there. Mm-hmm. If the token is yield bearing, we have 2 liquid staking providers, so you will get a liquid staking token. If you want to have NFTs, well, we have an NFT marketplace. And if you want to build on 5 different chains and have 10 different pools, well, we have a DEX. So all of this together is a Ride program, and people can join that if they want to build cross-chain applications and somehow contribute to this growing cross-chain ecosystem. And then we have a second program called Sail with the whale, which is aimed not at protocol builders, but at blockchains. And the sales pitch basically is, hey, you have a blockchain, you have 3 options. Option 1 is you build yourself, so you grab yourself a couple of $1 million, a year worth of time, 20 developers, and you start building liquid staking, DEX, flash loans, NFTs, games, and so on yourself. That's option 1. Option 2 is you don't build any of this. Well, then why do you have a chain? And option 3 is you work together with us and we deploy it there in a couple of weeks. And it's there, battle tested, with community, audited, with a whole bunch, part of a huge network, basically. So yeah, that was a lot of talking.
No, it's good. That's really good. I would posit you guys have one of the most unique, maybe the first real interchain community. Like, because there's lots of these different apps and chains. They kind of have their own localized. We're a sovereign blockchain. We like our stuff. Yeah, IBC is cool and we interact with other people, but like this, our tribe is here, right? It seems like you guys actually have kind of a roaming tribe throughout the interchain, and I think you might be the first that I actually know of. So it's an interesting mental note. That type of stuff really fascinates me, and it's like, was it the product that triggered that ethos, or did it start with the community ethos and that ended up resulting in products that were cross chain, right? Like, what leads the other is always like a fascinating question with those types of things. So three other topics to round things out. I want to talk about SailDAO. I want to talk about some of the Terra tweets, and then third, we'll talk about kind of like the future of White Whale, what's on the horizon, what you're most excited about, and then we'll kind of round things out. So, talk to me about SailDAO. What is the relationship of SailDAO to Migaloo and White Whale?
Yeah, SailDAO. So, the listeners with a lot of attention, they just heard that I was talking about 2 programs. The Ride program, which is let's build cross-chain apps together, and the Sail program, which is let's work together between the Ride teams and a new blockchain. So the blockchain can get all the apps that we've built, and community and liquidity and activity. And Osmosis decided, or there is not one person deciding things, but Sunny reached out to us, and he basically said that he wants Osmosis to become more than just a DEX, more than just an app chain. He wants it to become a platform and wants to open things up. So he needs the DeFi and NFT 101s. He wants games, NFT marketplace. He wants, secondary DEXs, so there's liquidity competition in fees and incentives. He wants more exotic DeFi protocols, and so on and so on. And he had three choices: take a lot of money, devs, and time and build it himself. Don't do it, which obviously he wants to do it, or work together with somebody who already has it. And as it turns out, we are the leading cross-chain builders. So he reached out to us, and we came to an agreement between the teams, obviously, but also between the communities. And so SailDAO was birthed, and the Sail token, in honor of the Sail program, was minted. And the deal was structured pretty much as follows. So the right teams, they deploy all their stuff there. So NFT marketplace. So Osmosis is going to get NFTs very shortly. White Whale, DEX, and Flash loans. So both of those things are live. Then games. So Raccoon will deploy, I think they said March or something. I don't recall. But Osmosis will get games. And Eris Protocol will deploy more of their products there. And now that's not not unique, but obviously because Osmosis already has more lending markets, many lending market integrations, but obviously we'll also list them on the lending market on Migaloo. So they get a whole bunch of products from us. In return, they put 3.5 million Osmo into the SailDAO, which is controlled by the Sail token, which was airdropped to Migaloo and Osmosis communities. And that token is now acting as a liquidity DAO to inject liquidity, for example, into the White Whale DEX. Maybe for those familiar with liquidity DAOs, maybe Manta DAO on Kuji, so something like this.
Do you foresee that this type of fresh token, like the Sail token, would you see another version of that token launching on a different chain in a different ecosystem, or do you feel like the SailDAO becomes an interchain liquidity DAO?
I'd rather, I'd rather think the SailDAO will grow outwards rather than having many copycats of it.
Sure.
I mean, obviously there will be a lot of liquidity DAOs, but I feel like the SailDAO model will rather have
Hmm.
make deals with other chains as well.
And I saw that the SailDAO, it's been looking to close liquidity deals to kind of lock in those kind of interchain relationships. One of them was with the Roar team. I know another one was with Terra, which TFL with its bankruptcy kind of put things temporarily on hold, but then it's still can be done through the community pool. And I saw that that there was some pushback from Osmosis
Mhm.
community members just because of the size of the deal. So yeah, it's interesting to see like what's kind of how do you foresee this relationship between the SailDAO and its incentives versus like Osmosis's underlying community? Because there's like a conflict of sovereignty there that I find fascinating.
Mhm. I think it has to play out a little bit over time. There's, the Osmosis community was very, up until recently, I think very strong community in their own ecosystem. And now there's lots of influx, as Osmosis opens up, there's more people coming in from different places with different views on how to do governance
Yep.
and how to make deals. And what I always appreciate in this decentralized world that we're trying to build is the ability to freely speak your mind and bounce off ideas. So this Terra prop, it never made it past governance stage. It was just an idea that people talked about. That's really all about it. And there were lots of advocates. There were lots of proponents or people who didn't like it. But at the end of the day, it never made it past proposal stage. So it's hard to say how this is going to be evolving in the future. I think the more people participate in the governance of SailDAO, they will continue to form and shape their own structures and frameworks on how to do liquidity deals and manage risk.
That's an interesting observation. Like the concept that osmosis is opening up to be a platform, which means it's inviting in other builders with other cultural values and different ideas, and that creates it's like the urbanization effect, right? Of like
Mhm.
the melting pot of ideas, and that's inevitably going to
Yeah,
create the consensus and unification looks different. Like what it looks
yeah,
different in that world than the you know monoculture of like just osmosis products and no other
yeah,
tokens, right? So that's I'm gonna be watching that evolve over time, and it's interesting to see how things like SailDAO interact with that
mm,
new dynamic. Shifting over now to there was a really interesting Twitter thread that came out recently. I was kind of comparing, White Whale to Astroport and who's more Terra aligned, and there was some really lively debate. I think Chris Armani came at it from like a metric standpoint, and then you kind of had on the White Whale side, you had community members coming at it more from like an ethos and comms perspective. That White Whale has always been like very verbal about their support for Terra, like pretty much like every step of the way. And so I just want to get your thoughts on that whole conversational thread and why do you think there's so much like kind of like passion imbued within that conversation? There's a lot of community involvement. It was interesting to watch.
yeah. Fantastic that you really did a good job of preparing for this interview. I feel like you really hit a couple of very good and relevant talking points, and this is one of them. It's so relevant that I didn't even have the time yet to issue a statement in the forum. So I was going to write one after our call. So if you're watching this, it's probably I probably wrote it by then, and it's live there. So good job, Carter. Thank you.
Thank you.
Um, so um, I'm gonna just say what I think about writing later today. So the proposal itself, which aims to use the Alliance module to restake LP tokens, so something that Migaloo has been done successfully for months and months and months, it's coming to Terra too. So the question was, what LP tokens?
Mm.
So, and contrary to Migaloo, where there's only one DEX, which is the White Whale DEX, on Terra there's three DEXs: White Whale, Astroport, and Jura, which is a little less known. So the question is, what tokens? And the proposal said, let's use just Astroport LP tokens. So why was there a pushback? There was a pushback because, obviously I can only observe here and not speak for the community as a whole or parts of it, but I feel like there's large factions in the Terra community that feel very hurt by Astroport.
Mm.
Lots of builders and lots of community members. Now, I'm not commenting here on if it's true or valid or not. I'm just saying a lot of people feel that way, I think. And they feel like that Astroport has left Terra in a sense, not in a sense that the product isn't there yet, but their alignment has shifted away from Terra. And
Sure.
they claim that in its in its hardest days, in its most dire days and darkest days, where White Whale decided to continue build in spirit and together with Terra, with limited resources. Delphi is much bigger than resource-wise than White Whale, obviously. While White Whale continued to build in vision and with ambition together with Terra, Astroport left. They cut incentives by I think 90-ish%, and they got most of or a large allocation of the Terra revival funds, which were sold quite quickly. So those are things that I feel a lot of people are uncomfortable with. And I'm not going to commenting on if it's true or not, or if it's valid or not, but that's how a lot of people feel. So hence the pushback. So in their mind is, if we were betrayed, why should we give money to them if we have two other solutions, two other DEXs that stayed with Terra? That's how the opposing factions felt about this. That's your first part of the question. Second part about what I think is the right way or correct way to move forward here. So I think the proposal in itself tries to do something good, because we've been doing this for a long time on Migaloo, and it's been working out great. So it's a good thing to do, I think. But it's taking the whole approach of coming to a solution backwards. The overreaching question needs to be, what is the best for Terra?
Yep.
Then you have to come up with, all right, the best for Terra, how can we measure this? Then you can say, we want more volume, we want more liquidity, we want more apps, we want this. So you need to have metrics, measurable metrics. You need to list them, and then you need to look, when you have all these measurable metrics, then you need to look, all right, which of the three solutions do I have here? Who satisfies which metrics? And then you can come up with a final solution, that is, give everything to A, split it up, or do whatever. But you need to have a very comprehensive set of metrics. And what this proposal did is it cherry-picked metrics that match Astroport. So it kind of had it completely backwards. So you had metrics, and then you argued, the metrics say Astroport, so hence the liquidity should be coming to Astroport, but nobody asked the questions, are those the right metrics?
Yep.
And so is it correct, and is it comprehensive? So in our post that I'm going to post, so the initial proposal basically argued Astroport has the most efficient pool formula, which leads to most volume, hence it's the best choice. So it's one metric, Astroport wins, hence this is the only solution. Now, in my post, I will outline this, and I will say that volume is just one metric, and arguably it's not even the most important one, because at the end of the day, will a trader decide to come to Terra if for a $10,000 trade he gets 0.5% or 0.4% less? So efficiency is not everything. What is, however, also very important, which are other metrics, is does the protocol, or if I inject liquidity where, will it enable more builders to come?
Sure.
And White Whale, together with Backbone Labs, has kept most of the NFT ecosystem alive. So by supporting Backbone Labs, or White Whale, you're supporting Backbone Labs and the NFT ecosystem. So that's a metric, right? Then you have protocol or teams that you bring on chain. So we have this cross-chain builders ecosystem, and Raccoon already said they want to deploy on Terra. So White Whale got a new app or a new team of builders with games that are currently not present on Terra, and they will deploy there. So by supporting White Whale, you're opening up a whole new class of applications on the chain, which is games. So if you want to play this fair, you need to lay out the metrics, and then you need to say, all right, player A wins here, player B wins here, but you can't cherry pick metrics. That doesn't work.
One interesting thing is, in very high level debates with a lot at stake, it's often that which is redacted which speaks the loudest, right? It's a form of like reductionism, to kind of simplify and speed up decision making, often in favor of one party versus another. So that's one observation.
Debates are debates. it's important to have them. And as I said earlier in the conversation, one of the things I really enjoy and value in a lot of different communities is the ability to openly speak ideas. So I'm not mad at anybody for posting the proposal. Maybe they had some intentions there, maybe not. I don't know. But the proposal is just what it is. And if I find a flaw in it, I'm gonna call it out because I have vested interest in this proposal, obviously. So it's just part of the game. So I feel like it's important to be passionate about it, but not get insulting or emotional, or keep it professional.
Of course, of course, of
I
course.
think that's very important.
The the second observation is, you know, in the bridging ecosystem, a lot of times there's debates on apps of like what's our canonical version of an asset? Like, are we going to be XLR? Is gravity? Is it wormhole? Is it going to be layer zero? Right? There's like a lot of questions around that. Do you feel like kind of the alliance module discussions about what's going to be accepted and how much, do you see parallels there, or do you think there's like what are the differences in those discussions? Because it feels very similar. Of like there's kind of a levity of which LP tokens are we going to treat with the most levity, and like yeah, I guess that's my general question. Do you see parallels
Mhm.
there?
Yeah, certainly there's parallels, because that which you're basically picking who's going to win or not on your chain. That's what this is. So this is,
Mm-hmm.
if you have 10 different options and you just support one, all the other nine will not make it. Especially, with bridges, and it's something very similar with DEXs. At the same time, there's also a couple of key differences. So bridges are, and interoperability protocols in that sense, are arguably the most complex piece of decentralized technology we have
Yep.
in the whole crypto space. So, and DEXs on the other hand are simple in its most basic form. And there's a smart contract. There are a couple of functions, and sure, you can get crazy with formulas. You can like input output formulas. You can get even more crazy with hooks that Uniswap V4 is doing. But at the end of the day, a DEX is an order of magnitude simpler
Mm.
than interoperability protocol or bridges. So I would argue that when it comes to this monetary policy decisions, which DEX do we take or enable to stake their LP tokens? Of course, there's the security requirements, like you need to have audits, code needs to be open source, blah blah blah. But I feel like the focus is more on economics,
Mm.
like what are the metrics you want to achieve, and how are you going to achieve them by allocating liquidity where and how.
Mm.
With bridges, on the other hand, personally, at least I place all my focus on security, because chances are all these bridges will get hacked sooner or later. So here it's about security, security, security.
Sure. Interesting. That's an interesting mental model of the difference between the two. One is a 100% obsession with security versus the other one is more of like what is the economic value of placing chips on one option versus the other, and then how many chips do you put on the table on one option versus the other. So definitely parallels. Well, thank you for the very thorough discussion on the Terra side of things, the Ash report, and the SailDAO. Super interesting stuff there. Let's now go forward facing as we kind of wrap things up here. It's been a super good, super in depth video. I think the communities will love this. I personally like the deep dives better than kind of like the quick, shallow Twitter space. I like to go into the weeds more. But what's on the horizon for Migaloo and White Whale that really gets you excited? And after you kind of give a rundown of what that roadmap looks like, how can people get involved in the Migaloo community, and then any of your final comments to the
Mhm.
community.
Yeah. So the Whitewell team and Migaloo and the community together, and our partners that we've been building with, we've been really innovating and pushing the state of the art in DeFi and NFTs since we started doing this. The first chain to have restaking enabled, the first cross-chain ecosystems. And we're going to continue this. We're going to continue to be not at the leading edge. We're going to push the boundaries. We're the guys stepping over the boundaries, and we're going to continue to do this in the future. On the NFT front, on the DeFi front, on the chain level, we're just going to continue pushing the state of the art there. At the same time, this year we're really going to focus on user experience. It's all about UX, UX, UX. We're going to try to make this arguably a little bit complex system of restaking and LP staking and burning and buybacks and NFT-fi and all of that more simple, more accessible, so that you have unified interfaces for the whole ecosystem, unified interfaces for cross-chain ecosystems, automation is in place. So that's two of the most important things that we're going to focus on. At the same time, we're going to continue scaling horizontally. We have this cross-chain product suite, so we're going to scale it. As more chains that are interesting come up, we're going to continue deploying there, scaling up. At the same time, we're not neglecting the existing deployments, so we're going to continue nurture our very deep relationship with Terra, with Osmosis, with Chihuahua, build our apps there, build the communities around there. And last but not least, we have our own chain, Migaloo, that we're going to continue building out the ecosystem. So pretty much expansions all in very different dimensions, horizontally with the cross-chain protocols, vertically on the respective chains on Migaloo, and also on the technology side.
Amazing. David, how can people get involved with the Migaloo and White Whale community?
Sure. So the best place to start is probably the White Whale Twitter account. You can find it at White Whale DeFi. There's a link tree to the ecosystem, and you should be able to find links to Telegram and Discord there. And if you made it that far, you should find it easy to, get access to the other Discords of the other teams building in the ecosystem. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to anybody in Telegram or Discord. We have a very, very active community that will quickly help you.
And as a final piece, as we close this interview out, it's your chance to look directly into the camera. Any words for anyone watching this video or anyone from the Migaloo and White Whale community?
Yeah. If you survived the bear market until now, strap in. It's going to be a fun year. So enjoy the ride.
Thank you, everyone, for watching. This was Into the Interchain with the White Whale team with David. Thank you so much for your time, sir. Look forward to seeing a hyper productive 2024 as White Whale cements itself as the most interoperable DeFi protocol ever made in Cosmos, and maybe the most diverse DeFi community ever. So super, super cool stuff. Have a wonderful day.